Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, where we bring you all the latest in social media, what's trending on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that. We have a lot to talk about today. Recapping the latest episode of The Bachelor. Shane Dawson just dropped the end of his beauty series, video series with Jeffree Star, so we'll get a little bit into that. Mr. Peanut's dead. We have a lot of, current events that have happened in the past 24 hours that we'll talk about. So let's just do some housekeeping, what's on the radar. Hayley Williams released her single today called Simmer, and people on Twitter are freaking out. The music video is basically, let me start with the song. So the song is, whenever it started, I immediately thought, this is Decode. This reminds me so much of Decode, which was Paramore's debut, one of their first songs from their first albums around the time that Twilight was popular and coming out. And I thought, this reminds me so much of that era. And sure enough, it was, the theme was supernatural, and it had, basically it's a Hayley Williams solo track. So it's not Paramore, it's Hayley Williams, but the producer is somebody who produced one of the last Paramore albums. I believe her name is Taylor. And the track it's very atmospheric and kind of a little bit darker and edgy. She doesn't, scream, she doesn't wail, she doesn't hit any of her high notes. It's just very low and something different that we've never seen from her before. And the music video completely matches 100%. It's right off the bat, you see her, she's the central character in the music video, and she's running naked through the woods. And so I'm whoa, this is starting out a little bit much for me. But that's the dark, edgy broodiness of it. We don't exactly know what's going on. Her hair is back blonde with her blunt cut bangs, kind of like the Told You So video. And we can see all throughout the video, she's running. We don't know what she's running from, but she's looking back, and there's tons of takes. And eventually she runs into this house and runs and hides somewhere. And throughout the video, we see her progress, and eventually there's an intruder that is revealed, or an enemy force or something, and the whole thing is very sacrificial, almost satanic and dark. And at the end, she she opens the door and lunges at whoever is trying to attack her in the house, and it turns out she killed herself. The mask, it's a very satanic mask. It's knocked off, and she's laying there on the ground. And before she killed, this other version of herself, she smeared herself in clay and mud and stuff. And fans are speculating, is this symbolic? Is this symbolic of her past relationships? Is this symbolic of, shedding her Paramore skin and becoming the person that she wants to be? People are speculating that the mud was kind of a rebirth, she's taking earth and putting it on her body, and she's being reborn. So people are speculating, from the Told You So video, she is killing that version of herself and bringing who she really is to light and just transforming into a whole nother person. It's a super interesting sound. that doesn't sound like Paramore at all, but also kind of sounds like Paramore way back when. So it's a super interesting video. Check that out. It's trending all over Twitter, all over YouTube, and Spotify. And yeah. So moving on, I do not know out of what woodwork whoever decided to do this, but there's a commercial going up all around the internet about Mr. Peanut. And so in the commercial, it's Mr. Peanut, the old, the peanut brand, the guy with the monocle, the peanut, and the hat. And he's with two people, and something happens to where, they get in some kind of shenanigan, and they're hanging off the tree, and I think the tree branch is cracking. I watched it twice. And Mr. Peanut falls to his death, and the people are like, maybe he lived. But whenever he gets to the ground, he explodes. And so all over Twitter, people are saying, R.I.P. Mr. Peanut, 1914 to 2020. So Mr. Peanut is dead. I don't know if this means they're going to come up with something new for the company or what is going on, but people are holding his funeral. People are like, if you look on Twitter, it's at the estate of Mr. Peanut, and it's very bizarre. Also trending, somebody decided to share their knowledge in how they travel with books, and that is to cut them in half. I think this is an absolutely bizarre idea, because if you don't have room for a whole book, how are you going to have room for half a book? I just think it's kind of like perverse. I don't like damaging books, although I am one of those people who does dog ear the book. I'm not one to, cut my book. I just feel like books these days are so expensive and they smell so good. Like, why would you want to ruin that or deface that? I would feel so wrong doing that to one of my books. And those are the big things, that are trending on Twitter. It's always something weird. Like, it's always like hashtag life with Derek. And I'm like, what is going on with Derek? Hashtag Orlando Bloom. Go look that one up, because that one is weird if you haven't already heard about that one. I might talk about that one later, but it's not exactly the most appropriate. So if you just have some time to fool around on Twitter, the most random things are always trending at any specific time, and I find that pretty interesting. So when we get back, all around the country, the world is tuned into the impeachment right now. Trump is in the process of being impeached, and the trials are happening right now. But there are only a couple of things allowed on the impeachment floor, and like 3 specific items. So this is the impeachment diet. For those of you who tried Weight Watchers, tried, keto, tried fasting, tried whatever fad diet, this is a new diet for you to try. And I'll tell you what that is when we come back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast, dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Process is currently happening with Trump right now, and apparently it lasts for something like 8 days, I think, if I've read it correctly. Don't quote me on that, but it lasts for 8 days. You're not allowed to bring, much into the room. You can only bring, I think it's milk, water, and candy. So all around, the Congress is getting their sugar fix. That's what people are saying. Like, there's a very strict limit on what you can bring during the impeachment. So you have to consist 100% on sugar, milk, and water, which is interesting. I'm sure some new recipe will come out of this. It sounds like a terrible diet, especially when I'm hungry. I hate eating sugar. When I'm hungry, I just feel like trash. Like, it makes me feel disgusting. My teeth, it leaves a weird taste in my mouth, and it makes my stomach hurt. Like, I cannot eat sugar on an empty stomach, although I did eat a cupcake today that was super rich. And I'm still hungry. I ate lunch, I ate breakfast, but then that sugar, like, jumpstarts my appetite for some reason. All right, moving on. So Suzanne Collins just released that. Suzanne Collins, for those of you who don't know, is the author of the Hunger Games trilogy. And she just released that she was writing and is in the process of writing and turning into a movie the Hunger Games prequel. And so fans thought, okay, of anybody for there to be a prequel about, you have Finnick, you have like Rue, you have even Katniss or Peeta, Gale, any of the older characters. And fans are dismayed because they found out that this beloved series, Suzanne Collins is going to choose to focus on President Snow. And fans are like, why hook us for 4 books, and then try and bring like a sort of a sense of justice to like our least favorite character. I think Jon Snow or President Snow is the least liked character in the whole entire series, and nobody wants to read about him. She's trying to give him a backstory and kind of make him like appeal to everybody who hates him, but we don't want to read about like everybody's most hated villain. It's like trying to I'm trying to come up with another really relevant villain, but nothing really comes to mind that's as fantastical. But that's coming, soon to YA, and it's going to be adapted into a movie, and people are less than happy, which I can understand because, I'm not interested in reading about President Snow. I don't even think that I finished the 4th book. I was super into it whenever the books first came out, and I think I read up to 3, but then whenever the movies started coming out, I kind of lost interest a little bit, and I just watched the movies instead. All right, when we come back, I'll be giving you a recap on things that are going on with music other than Hayley Williams. So Mac Miller's birthday was supposed to be the 19th. He would have been 28, and a couple of people left well wishes and stuff to him on his birthday, and people are speculating that his latest album that he dropped, Circles, features Ariana Grande on some of the lyrics. So we'll dive into that, what's going on the internet, what people think, when we come back with the GSMC Social Media News podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
So So Mac Miller's album, Circles, was supposed to be the second album in his trilogy. So he put out Swimming a couple of years ago, pre-2018, pre-overdose, and that was supposed to be the first album in the trilogy, and then Circles was supposed to be the second, and apparently there was supposed to be a third. So whenever I found out that he put out this album, I thought, what in the world? Like, how does that work? Basically, what he did, it was his family. They took all of the tracks that he hadn't released yet, the tracks that he had recorded and maybe not perfected, had them tweaked a little bit, and brought them to a producer, and they requested that he have a posthumous album. And whenever I heard this term, I thought, humus from the root word, or humor from the root word humus, or humorous, and I thought, there's nothing funny about an album after somebody dies, but posthumous just means, work or a piece of something that has been released post-death. So he would have been 28 on the 19th, and people took to Twitter, and Instagram to kind of wish him a happy birthday. Ariana Grande even posted something that said, like, miss you, but it was since deleted. Interesting. He died of a drug overdose back in 2018. It was counterfeit oxycodone. Don't buy drugs over the internet, and it was fentanyl, alcohol, and oxycodone that he overdosed on. He was found in his a place just unconscious, so it had been a little bit. And so his family, 2 years later, went to John Bryan, who produced Mac Miller's second album, or first in the trilogy, Swimming, and they got together with him, said, you know what, I want these tracks to be produced, and they released it, and that came out a couple of days ago, and people speculate that on the track, I Can See, I think it's called I Can See, Ariana Grande is laying the vocals down, and I listened to it. It does sound a lot like her, and people have been, asking the producer, and he said it wasn't a planned idea. It just kind of happened. It was a pre-produced track. It was from a long time ago. There were no tweaks. It wasn't planned. So he didn't outrightly deny it, but he didn't confirm it either. But it's not really a big deal. Like, Ariana Grande hasn't commented on it or anything. It's not a scandal. I think that it would be really cool if there were any songs that he had maybe written but hadn't recorded, or, hadn't done anything with, that she took and finished them. I feel like they had such an incredible bond, and whenever I heard about that happening, I can't believe it's been so long now. It was sad. Usually things that happen in the media of people I don't know, celebrities, they don't affect me that much, but I remember hearing about that and just thought, Ariana Grande, who was with Pete Davidson at the time, they had just gotten engaged, and with Mac Miller, he and she broke up because of his drug use. She told him, you need to get clean and you need to get your act together, and he didn't, so they broke up, and then shortly after, he overdosed, and she got blamed for that and stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, you being blamed for somebody's, overdose or suicide, if it was, that's rough. And I mean, I'm not claiming this is 100% true, but that could totally lead to somebody breaking up with a partner they're engaged with, like being just engaged, and then hearing and getting all these tweets and people saying, you're a murderer and all that. Like, that would totally kill a relationship. But I'd also like to think, if it was between Mac Miller and Pete Davidson, maybe Mac was kind of like a guardian angel and orchestrating, being her saving grace, saving her from Pete, because I don't think I'm the only one who thought, what is she doing with him? So I think it'd be really cool if she kind of took it a step further, released an album for him, and completed the trilogy. That would be super awesome and touching. Alright, when we get back, I'm going to be talking about The Bachelor and what happened in the last episode. We were still on Champagne Gate whenever the last episode premiered. Ugh, it's like, get over it already. And that lasted through a good half of the episode. But we were also introduced to some other characters, Alea, some drama. And next week, we got a little teaser trailer. Victoria F. is going on a one-on-one with Peter. Surprise, they're going to hear Chase Rice, going to a Chase Rice concert, but producers knew that she had dated Chase Rice. So it's all one big setup. We'll talk about that too. Stay right here with the GSMC Social Media News Podcast. We'll be right back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Okay, I swear I'm addicted to this show. Every Monday, I live tweet. I've only done it for 2 weeks, but I really enjoy it. I live tweet The Bachelor, and you can find those tweets on the GSMC social media page on Twitter. But it's a spectacle. The Bachelor fans are their own kind of little army, and I feel so silly. I'm studying in college. I have intelligent hobbies. You know, I'm not exactly basic in that way, but I do love some Bachelor. That's my favorite smut TV show, and one that I will continue to watch until I grow some more brain cells, I guess. Like, it gets a really bad rap for being just trash TV, but it's so entertaining. For this season, we're watching Peter Weber, the windmill guy, or the Pilot Pete, and he is trying to do a brief refresher. I think we're on week four. I mean, we've met a couple of basic characters. There are still people that keep popping up. I'm like, who the heck is that? Like, I have no idea. There were 2 or 3 of them, like Cherie, or Shani, I don't remember her name, but I thought, I haven't seen her since the first episode. And I'm sure they do that on purpose. Like, they don't put the people in there who don't matter, but it looks like they just invite people off the street to come and stand in the episode every week, and that's kind of like a running joke. So whenever the week before last, that episode, it was all about Champagne Gate. So Hannah Sluss kind of hijacked Kelsey's champagne that she had been saving for years. She went to some fancy place, some out-of-the-country place, and she had this champagne. And Hannah Sluss, which I thought was so sweet and so innocent, took her champagne. And, I mean, I don't think she took it on purpose, but that's what Kelsey thought. So she ran in there whenever Hannah was talking to Peter, and she said, you know what, I don't think it's cool that you stole my champagne. And so Champagne Stealer was born, and then later on, whenever Kelsey got a new bottle of champagne, Peter knocked it over. So whenever she opened it, it sprayed all over her face, and you could not plan better TV. I think that was and will be the highlight of this whole season, and she will now be known as Champagne Gate Girl, like Champagne Girl. Everybody's looking forward to seeing her. So in the beginning of this last episode, I think it's the 4th, it might be the 3rd, I'm not sure. Whichever one it is, that, it wasn't over. We jumped headfirst into the Champagne saga. And Hannah and Kelsey were both, there were montages of them, walking and sulking and crying. And for me, I was bored with that. And finally they confronted each other. Didn't really squash the drama. That was supposed to be the aim of it, but it didn't really happen. So we have the Kelsey and Hannah Sluss thing. Kelsey's accusing Hannah of being a victim, and Hannah's accusing Kelsey of being a bully, and Kelsey says, you can't call someone a bully, even though she's basically telling Hannah, you're crazy, you're a bitch, and you're a liar, and all of these, like, verbally really harsh things. And so Hannah's trying to defend herself, and Kelsey just seems like a loose bottle. She seems like that champagne bottle. Like, if Kelsey was a liquid embodiment, it would be what was inside of that champagne bottle. She's just, like, ready to burst. Not my favorite character, but somehow she makes it to the final, like, 5, which is beyond me. Her nose just seems really small for her face. And it doesn't even look like she's gotten work done. She's a really beautiful girl. It just seems like she has a teeny tiny little nose, which is interesting. It's not me judging. It's just, what I see. So over in the other corner, we meet Alea and Sydney. Sydney is this really gorgeous, she is of mixed heritage. She's from Alabama. And she's commented, you don't see a lot of black people from Alabama. She's not like the other girls. Her family wasn't super rich. And she's not, a typical Southern girl. Super soft-spoken, super naturally pretty. And then you have Alea, so she's, the beauty queen, and I had no idea who she was at the beginning of this episode, even though I've seen her before. But there's a whole play on, a pageant girl, and something goes down between her and Sydney straight up approaches her and says, do you have a job? And that was probably one of my favorite lines from the whole show, is like, do you work? How is it not having a job? And Alea goes, I have 3 jobs, actually. So that, is a big pull. She's a pageant girl or whatever. But later on, it's revealed by Victoria P. that Alea, who is a pageant person, Victoria P. is also a pageant person, and they know each other outside of the show. Victoria said, Alea asked her to not tell producers that they knew one another. And she tells this to Peter. Victoria tells this to Peter, and it looks bad for Alea. Like, it looks like she's trying to ask Victoria to lie, and so all of the girls are constantly telling him, Alea isn't real, she's fake, she acts a different way for the cameras. And so he already has all of these girls in his head, like, telling him, hey, she's fake. And then he finds out that Alea asked Victoria to lie, and so it doesn't really look good for her. And whenever he confronted her, it was super funny because she kind of just froze. Like, you could tell it. She couldn't back out. She couldn't get out of the lie anymore. And so he ended up sending her home. But then in commercials for the next episode, she comes back. And it looks like she comes back not against Peter's will. It looked like, she came back and on her own accord. And people are not happy about that. And I was so happy. I was so happy for Peter because he tossed the trash out. He wasn't a Hannah B. Most of the people keep their, like, red flag people on for episodes and episodes and episodes, whether it's for air or, views, whatever. And he just, like, tossed her out the first sign of trouble. And I was, like, I said, I stand Peter, but now I have to take that back because he might take her back. And I'm hoping he doesn't, because that would stink. I was looking forward to seeing her butt booted out of there. All right, that was recap of episode 3 or 4. I don't really keep count. Last week's episode. When we come back, I'll fill you in a little bit about Victoria F. Not my favorite character either, and I'll let you know why. But next week they have a one-on-one date. She doesn't really have my vote. A couple of shady things have gone down about her. A couple of shady things have been, uncovered about her. But next week's episode is going to be super dramaful, and I'm super excited. because like I've said, my life hardly has any drama except for Monday nights, and that's when I get my fix on The Bachelor. So get a snack, stay with us. We'll be right back with the GSMC social media podcast.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
So Twitter's been doing some digging on Victoria F. I believe Victoria P is the blonde. We're only 3 or 4 episodes in, so I haven't exactly memorized, the name and the last initial, but I believe this is Victoria F. Kind of petite, brunette girl, super huge eyes. She was in the fashion show saying, like, I'm so shy, I don't know, I can't be outgoing. She was like, complaining, was not my favorite from the very beginning. And then she whipped off her robe and she was wearing lingerie. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her background, but she's a huge, player in the next episode. People have been doing some digging and she doesn't have the best history. She was a model for White Lives Matter. Right off the bat, huge red flag, she says, she was saying constantly in the second episode, I'm so shy, I don't have a personality like these other girls, but somebody found, the screenshot from the shoot. I think it's called WLM Apparel. That's what she modeled for, and it was like a conservative flag, or that one flag, the Confederate flag. And she was straight up modeling for White Lives Matter. Like, how daft can you be? I know this is not a political podcast, but even those who aren't involved in politics have to know you don't do that unless you're just really desperate to model. But first red flag. Second red flag, she dated Chase Rice, which isn't a red flag, like, in and of itself. But people kind of came forward on social media and have been saying, like, she might be the next, the campaign, I'm not here for the right reasons girl. And the fact that she dated Chase Rice, the producers might have preyed on that. And, they're always looking for people who have interesting backstories that can create views and stuff. And the fact that she dated a famous country star is like currency to these producers. They're sending her on a one-on-one with Peter next week. And Chase Rice is gonna, sing to them, like just them. And she has to tell Peter, that's my ex. Because I guess she didn't tell anybody but the producers. And so Peter goes to talk to him, she goes to talk to him, and her footage has apparently been pulled. Like, Reality Steve was reporting on this way before the season ever aired, that for some reason you can't find footage of Victoria. I know that she is one of the final girls. And I don't understand. Like, I thought it was going to be Hannah Sluss, Victoria F, unless I'm confusing them, the blonde Victoria, and maybe, like, who else? Who else did I like? I liked those two, for sure. I liked Hannah Sluss and Victoria, the blonde Victoria. No one else is really, standing out or coming to mind, although I'm sure. Right now I'm watching David Mesnick's season, and it's really hard to keep them straight in my head. There's an influx of characters right now. But I know for sure Hannah Sluss is going to be up there, and I know that Victoria, the brunette Victoria, is going to be up there, and I know that Kelsey's going to be up there, Kelsey Weir. Anyways, we have to talk about these producers. I mean, you have to consider Victoria knew going on the show that this would get her on the show. So these producers are making people's lives miserable, pitting people up against each other. But also, I am sure that the actresses, the contestants know that they're doing it. It's not just, the producers aren't being evil, they're being producers. You know, they know all of what's going on. They vet these people. They figure out, you know, how to make the connections, how to pit people against each other, and it's great TV. It keeps us coming back, like, every week. So, they're doing their jobs. So that's next week. We're waiting to see what's going on next week. And that's all I got for that. I live tweet it every Monday, and it's my favorite thing to do, although we don't have cable right now, so I'm going to have to figure out how to do it next Monday. So, in other, you know, social media related news, the Wiggles, who were doing an Australian charity event, they were doing a concert. The purple Wiggle, who I thought was like the most, no, it was the yellow Wiggle. The yellow Wiggle, Greg, who I thought was the most attractive Wiggle, he ended up in the hospital. Last week. He ended up in the hospital, and there was a picture of him on Twitter in the hospital, and he does not look like himself. And I thought, you know, I couldn't have possibly been asleep for that long. But he looked super bad. He left the group in 2006 due to poor health. He had a double hernia operation and withdrew from the group. He was apparently like fainting and slurring his speech. And so he withdrew from the tour and like moments before he was supposed to go on stage. And so they did like a reunion concert to do Australia, like to give back to Australia, to benefit everything that's going on in Australia. And once again, you know, he came and did a couple concerts, and then he like fainted on stage. He was a couple of years back given like 7 years to live. He was diagnosed with dysautonomia. I don't know how to say that. Dysautonomia. So it was like a chronic kind of illness. But he got up there and was doing the benefit concert and fainted and was sent back to the hospital. He just got out today. I don't think he's going to be returning, but apparently he's struggling pretty bad. And I thought, you know, of any of the Wiggles, he looked like he was in the best shape. Poor guy. But he's good. Today they released a statement on their Twitter thanking all of their fans for the well wishes, saying that Greg is out of the hospital and won't be returning to tour. But I did not even know that the Wiggles were still a thing. Like, it's not any of the original people. It's like totally new people, and they have girls now, which is totally cool. Like, the first female yellow Wiggle her name's Emma Wiggle, also Anthony Watkins. But the only Wiggle that's still there, the original Wiggle, is Anthony Wiggle. So the blue guy, Anthony Wiggle. Yeah, that's what I got for the Wiggles. When we come back, I'll just discuss what's trending. I had no idea that Evan Peters was even in The Office. Apparently he was in The Office, the show The Office. Life with Derek was trending. I talked about that a little bit ago. And then Orlando Brown is trending for a really weird reason. If you want to look that up, you can. All I'll say is that Orlando Brown and Nick Cannon got into some stuff a little while ago. So I'll get into that when we come back with the GSMC Social Media News Podcast.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Twitter a couple of days ago, and I saw that Evan Peters was trending. Evan Peters from American Horror Story. And by the way, he's dating Halsey, which I didn't understand at all. I don't understand. And then by the way, Halsey did confirm having bipolar disorder. So what I said originally about Halsey not thinking before she used manic in her album title. She's bipolar, and she was diagnosed when she was 16. So the more you know. Evan Peters was trending, and I thought, like, crap, what is going on? What did he do? That's always my first, like, what dirt has come out about whatever is going on. I kind of, like, my stomach drops a little bit. Because I don't, they say don't meet your heroes, and I don't want to figure out something bad about the people that, my favorite actors, my favorite singers, stuff like that. But it was just his birthday. That's it. Most of the time, that's all it really is. But still, you can't help but worry. And there was a screenshot of him in the office. I had no idea he was in the office. The first half of his career, it was relatively under wraps. Like, I knew him whenever he was in Sleepover, he was on the Disney Channel, and he played these super weird characters, like super nasty, like snotty, like nerdy characters, and he was just like zany and like a spaz. But like that's the Evan Peters that I grew up knowing, and then all of a sudden, this guy like does a 180. As he enters his 30s, like, it took him a long time to, like, hit that. Like, he went through, like, first, second, third, and fourth puberty before he really got it together. And he turned around to be, like, this amazing, like, serious actor. Super handsome and, like, serious. And he dated Emma Roberts for a while, which was apparently a really domestic, like, abusive relationship. They went through a lot. And now he's dating Halsey, which hope that her music's not about him, but now I'm going to listen with like a new set of ears. And yeah, he was trending the other day, and apparently he's in the office. I'm going to have to watch that episode. Also, Life with Derek was trending, and I thought, okay, who has an assault scandal, or who did what? It's almost always, like a star or something, like Disney Channel star gets caught doing cocaine or something crazy like that. So I thought, what's this headline about? And people were taking clips out of context that showed Derek and Casey, talking and stuff, and a little background on Life with Derek. It was a Canadian TV show, kind of like Naturally Sadie with Charlotte Arnold. And, basically these kids are put together in a house, and it's just like a blended family, like Disney Channel comedy show. And that's Life with Derek. The brother's name is Derek, and he makes everybody's lives like miserable. And that's it. Like, that's the show. It's just a show about, like, Casey's like this type A personality, straight A girl, and Derek's like the exact opposite. And it shows them trying to get along in a blended family. And that's, the show. But people were taking clips out of context. I don't know who looked it up. It's always somebody starting something. But there was like a scene that hinted to, Casey having feelings for Derek, or being like, there being like sexual tension in the show that Disney Channel allowed to air, and people are saying like incest and stuff, but they were stepsisters and stepbrother. Like, it's fine, right? It's still a little much for the Disney Channel to be airing, but all in all, it's fine. And then finally, Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown was trending today on Twitter, and I kind of regret figuring out why. Apparently he and Nick Cannon got down with it a couple of years ago. Nick Cannon dressed up as a woman, and some things happened. If you want to go check out that hashtag, this is a family-friendly channel, so I can't exactly say what went down here, but just go check out the Orlando Bloom hashtag. Alright, that's all I have for you guys today. If you liked the podcast, subscribe to our channel. We have, this specific channel has podcast coming out Wednesdays and Sundays, and we have other channels that have podcasts coming out every day, and give us a review and let us know what you liked and what we could do better. As always, I'm Devin. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.